好，今天是2025年的5月17日，现在是中午的12点半啊，来到纽约曼哈顿的联合广场啊，这里一会儿有个抗议游行啊，大家看后面是特朗普啊，然后呢把它画成了希特勒的样子，上面写着以人类的名义啊拒绝一个法西斯的美国啊，特朗普法西斯政权啊必须下台。这个抗议活动呢1点钟开始啊，现在还早啊。发了一个传单给我啊，哇，还有这个不干胶
sticker.
哦 sticker。Thank you so much.
Could you donate for refuse fascism?
Okay,
you agree with this?
Thank you.
Here.
Thank you. 刚才那个主办方的一个老外，他给了我一张那个不干贴嘛，然后叫我捐钱，我又不好意思拒绝啊，就捐了1块钱啊。他给了我2张那个贴纸啊。他们这个活动我都拍过很多次了啊，起码都有个5、6次了啊。
We're ready to get this fucking fascist dictator out of the White House. We are refusefascism.org, and today all across the country there's nationwide protests to demand that the Trump fascist regime must go now. And we all see it, we all feel it. The fascism that's impending, that is coming down on people. We saw in Newark they arrested the mayor. For shame, for doing an investigation at the ICE detention center in his own city. On Sunday, Trump said that he doesn't think we need due process, even though it's part of the Constitution. What we are seeing is fascism rapidly coming to America, and it is up to you, it is up to us to stop it. Do you agree? And this is what we are doing today. We are going to find the millions of people. There are millions of people in this country that hate Donald Trump and everything that it represents. But now is the time for all that resistance to come together with one central demand. What's the demand? Trump must go now! That's the demand. Why? In the name of humanity. And so So we're going to have a rally here. You're going to hear from some speakers today. And then we're going to march to Bryant Park. All right, so we're going to get our rally started here. And before we start, we're going to get the lineup of our speakers. We want to make sure our speakers are here. I'm going to ask Vicky to bring the speakers up who are here, who are ready to speak. And I actually want to hear from people. What's one reason why you think Trump needs to go?
He's disappearing people!
He's disappearing people. What else?
Evil!
Because fascism is evil. What else?
He is pure evil!
He is pure evil. Why else does Trump need to go now?
Defying the Supreme Court! Because he's a fucking idiot that makes America
that's
look bad
right.
on the world stage! He's a fucking idiot!
That's true. He shouldn't even be in office. Am I right?
He's a fucking idiot!
All right, so we're going to bring up our next speaker. I'm going to have...
This country was built on genocide and slavery, and now we have Donald Trump, the ultimate epitome of corruption and unchecked greed, leading the most powerful fucking country in the world. If that does not terrify you, you have your head in the sand. I am so excited to see so many people out here today. Thank you so much for coming. Give it up for yourselves. This is fucking hard. Woo! Yeah! Trump's fucking ego is so inflated that he could look you, each one of you, in the eye and think that you love him. Think that your opinion does not matter. Well, he is fucking wrong. There are so many more of us than there are of him and his sycophantic billionaire cronies. Am I right? Yeah! Endless money for their wars. No war but the class war. Come on! 2028 is way too late!
2028 is way too late!
Trump must go now!
Trump must go now!
2028 is way too late!
2028 is way too late!
Trump must go now!
Trump must go now!
2028 is way too late!
2028 is way too late!
Trump must go now!
Trump must go now!
2028 is way too late! Trump must go now!
Trump must go now!
All right, let's get here today. We got a Mr. Keeney in the house. Come on.
First, we're going to have Matt read a statement from a student, L. So I'm going to introduce Matt. Come on up. She couldn't be here today, but she wanted to send a statement of support.
Thank you, everyone. I'm reading on behalf of El Finiti, a student and an ally of Refuse Fascism. While she can't be here in New York City today, she wanted to send all of her love and solidarity to us. I am not an immigrant. I am a white, middle class, in a family with birthright citizenship for decades. If I stay quiet and follow the regime, she would probably be pretty safe, at least physically. But her core beliefs, the essence of her being, would be in mortal danger. We cannot silently accept this fascist regime, or else we are a participant in it. She will not abandon her fellow human beings, or lose her humanity, and least of not, she will not accept a fascist America. Trump is attacking birthright citizenship, habeas corpus, due process, and other major rights enshrined in the Constitution. Allowing him to do so sets a precedent by which the Constitution can be altered at his whim. That is not a republic, that is a dictatorship. That is fascism. But there is hope. Our voices will be heard, our actions will be seen, and justice will prevail. We do not allow hope to make us lenient nor complacent. We let it fuel our actions, inform our intentions, and shield our convictions. Each one of us has a role to play. I have hope that we are capable of success. With faith in our collective conscience and a vision that a world we could create. But right now, the only path forward is this. Trump's fascist regime must end now. The Constitution must be upheld. Protect the Constitution. Uphold humanity. End fascism.
Y'all, are we really just gonna stay at home and do nothing and let this bloated bag of fascist feces run our country? Are we gonna wait for a savior to come save us? It's the power of the people. The power of the people can actually stop this. And do people know about what happened in South Korea? The president was impeached, but it took a little bit I think it took like 4 months later for the president to actually be removed. In tears. And you just imagine if Trump was out of office, it would be the biggest party this world has ever seen. There is a lot of potential that we have here. It would be a beautiful thing. And people could actually begin to lift their sights to what kind of a world they want to live in. A lot of people are scared of this kind of protest. But this kind of protest is a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to stand on the side of humanity. It's a good thing to care about other people. It's a good thing to think about humanity.
Jim Keeney is a passionate activist, educator, former elected official, and filmmaker who has dedicated his life to fighting injustice, from the sweatshops of Southeast Asia to the storm-ravaged shores of the New Jersey coast. His work speaks truth to power and challenges us to take meaningful action. Let's give it up for Jim!
Good afternoon, New York City! In the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. I want to thank all of you for coming out today, for demonstrating the courage we need in this moment, for standing up and speaking out, and for demanding that the Trump fascist regime must go. Last month, I spent some time in Germany. Now, while most people try to spend their vacations on the beach, sipping cocktails, I went to Germany in part to immerse myself in trying to understand the rise of authoritarianism there in the 30s. An authoritarianism that metastasized into the Nazism that we all learned about in our high school history classes. An authoritarian fascism with a racist and white supremacist bent that brought forth the horrors that were rained down on the world by Hitler and the Third Reich. Sounds like a fun vacation, right? Historians will tell you that at times history repeats itself, but much more often the past simply rhymes with the present. It's not always apples to apples, but it is all historical fruit. And this is why I want to be clear that I am not calling Trump Hitler, nor I am calling his followers Nazis. I think we do a disservice to our organizing efforts when this is done. Trump is Trump. Hitler was Hitler. Now, to be very clear, Trump is absolutely an authoritarian fascist in his own right. And an overwhelming majority of his followers are fascist Christian nationalists who are hell-bent on stripping our republic of democratic ideals, institutions, and norms. And it is our moral responsibility to stand up and stop them. During my trip to Germany, one of the places I visited was Dachau. It was my second time there. My first time was when I was 22 years old and fresh out of university. It had an impact then. But this time, in these times, it just landed differently. For those unfamiliar with Dachau, it's about 45 minutes outside of Munich. It was the first camp established for political prisoners by Hitler and the Reich. It went up just weeks after Hitler was appointed chancellor, and once he was in power and it was set up, it was a place that was utilized to sweep up and detain anyone deemed an enemy of the state. Dachau became the model for all later concentration camps, and it served as a school of violence for the SS. Over its 12 years in operation, 200,000 people were in prison there, and 41,500 were murdered there by the Nazi regime. As you go through the educational tour at Dachau, and if you do any follow-up reading, I highly recommend The Coming of the Third Reich by Andrew Roberts. You start to see the historical rhymes, the horrifying parallels that exist between that time and the time in which we find ourselves. What are these parallels? Authoritarianism, with the path being established for a dictatorship. Suppression of opposition, and this is only the beginning. A cult of personality, they self-define as MAGA. Extreme nationalism, rejection of democratic ideals, the desire for a strong leader, a father figure. These were all themes that were evident as part of the education I received at Dachau, and they are all evident right now in our United States of America.
And a psychopathic leader as well.
In our situation, Dachau is not 45 minutes outside of one of our major cities. It has instead been outsourced to El Salvador, in El Centro de Confinamiento de Terrorismo, the terrorist confinement center, a prison of brutality and gross human rights violations. It is there that the first group of people have been sent out of the United States without due process. It has been through the Trump regime's machinations with these individuals that they are testing fascist tactics, rhetoric, and establishing new and wildly dangerous political and legal norms. Even if one accepts the premise that the Trump administration puts forth that all of the people sent to El Salvador were dangerous, violent criminals who were here illegally, even if individuals who meet that description deserve due process under the law. In response to hearing this assertion, you sometimes hear Trump fascists say with anger, "Why? Why should we waste our tax dollars on people, those people, giving them the benefit of a trial? Just throw them out." If they only could, for a moment, set aside their anger, their fear, their hatred, and ask that question with a spirit of genuine inquisitiveness. Why? Why should we spend our tax dollars on giving all people the benefit of a trial, a due process, and not simply just throw them out? Because upholding the rule of law and giving every person who is in the United States, regardless of their immigration status, protection and due process under the law is what sets us apart from despot nations and authoritarian regimes. Maintaining this ideal is never a waste of tax dollars. It is one of the most critical parts of our constitutional republic, and it is an ideal that should be defended by anyone calling themselves a citizen and a patriot. Now, because not enough of us took to the streets when it was done to those folks, the Trump regime started going for the next group, students. Students who were here legally and who were righteously using their voices to speak out against the genocide that Israel is committing in Gaza. With regard to defending and demanding justice for these students, enough of us did come out. Enough of us did speak out. Because we came out, because we spoke out, we've seen the release of Renessa Ostark, the student from Tufts University, who was snatched off the street by masked ICE agents. A student who was targeted simply because of an editorial that she wrote defending a free Palestine and criticizing the state of Israel. We've seen the release of Moshe Madawi, the student right here from New York City at Columbia University, arrested while attending an interview for his naturalization as a citizen. He too was targeted because of his pro-Palestinian activism. We've seen the release of Badar Khansouri, a scholar from Georgetown University, also arrested because of his pro-Palestinian activism. We have won these battles. How? We stood up, we spoke out, and we demanded justice. Now, I am sure that the pattern in these students' cases is not lost on you. The sad reality is that AIPAC and the broader Zionist lobby has wholly owned our government for decades. The brutal reality that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza and they are violating international laws by using humanitarian aid as a weapon of war. Thankfully, we are just now starting to see the tide change. They've lost the narrative. They're losing support in the halls of Congress. Their desire to maintain and uphold genocidal apartheid state cannot last. And the future will clearly show that anyone defending Israel's actions now is standing on the wrong side of history. These issues are all interconnected. Authoritarianism, fascism, white supremacy, Zionism, Christian nationalism. And they have found a central organizing locus in the Trump regime. Coming back to the students, while we must rejoice in the victories that we won, we must be acutely aware that there are going to be many, many other battles we will need to fight. Just 2 days ago, across the river in New Jersey, I was outside the federal courthouse in Newark with an incredible coalition of hundreds of activists, faith leaders, trade unionists, and deeply concerned citizens who had gathered to voice our collective concerns about the arrest of Newark Mayor Ras Baraka. Mayor Baraka, as I'm sure all of you know, was recently arrested while exercising his rights and responsibilities as the mayor of New Jersey's largest city and providing legal oversight regarding Delaney Hall, a notorious ICE facility operating in Newark. Anyone who watches the video of what transpired can see that Mayor Baraka was targeted by the Trump regime. In his own words, after leaving the courthouse, he said, "I was targeted. I was the only person arrested. I was the only person identified. I was the only person they put in a cell. I was the only person put in cuffs. The only person going through this humiliation." He went on to say, "We are fighting about a document that was created hundreds of years ago. It's called the Constitution of the United States, which gives everybody due process. No matter who you are, no matter what language you speak, no matter what your background is, no matter what your gender is or who you decide to love. The Constitution protects everybody. Once you step foot on this soil, once you reside in this country, whether you are documented or not, the Constitution protects you." Amen, Mayor Baraka. Amen. Sadly, Mayor Baraka is among only a small handful of elected officials in the halls of Congress and around the United States who have the courage to not only talk the talk, but walk the walk, to put his body on the line in resisting Trump's fascist regime. With the hope of changing this, with the hope of getting more of our elected officials to stand up and speak out and take direct action on behalf of justice, I must offer a critique and an invitation to our friends and allies who consider themselves political moderates. As you are now seeing, there is no moderate position in fighting against the authoritarian fascism that we are experiencing under Trump. We continue to hear so many saying, "Why aren't the Democrats fighting?" Why? Because you wanted and elected Democrats who are center-right moderates. These people were never fighters. They were puppets of transnational corporations and moneyed special interest groups. The overwhelming majority of these Democrats oversaw, with their Republican colleagues, the political prelude to where we find ourselves now. They showed no guts to fight for Medicare for all. They showed no guts to fight for a Green New Deal. They showed no guts to codify Roe. They showed no guts to fight for an increase to the federal minimum wage. They showed no guts to fight for the bread and butter issues that would address the material needs of the poor, the working class, and the middle class. They showed no guts to stand up and say that children should not be bombed and starved to death. Instead, they worked to maintain the status quo. A status quo that allowed for the largest polarization of wealth, for the largest gap to grow between the rich and the poor since the Great Depression. And it is in this chasm of economic instability and injustice that a fascist populist like Trump was able to take power. Twice. So what do? The only way that the majority of our elected officials in the Democratic Party and any reasonable Republicans who are left will stand up and fight is if we, the people, lead them. This is the reality that each of us must attune with. Stop asking yourself, where are the Democratic leaders? And instead become a grassroots leader yourself. Independent of any political party. Be a citizen and lead from the streets. Start right in your neighborhood, doorstep by doorstep, block by block. Make connections, build community, build localized resistance groups. As Gandhi once opined, be the change you wish to see in the world. This is how we must fight. And what are we fighting for? The very founding ideals of our nation. This is what we are standing up and speaking out for, demanding that truth, justice, freedom, and representative democracy are protected and promoted in these United States. These truths are at the heart of our Declaration of Independence. We now find ourselves in a time with an authoritarian fascist regime on the march. Daily they are working to consolidate power, to threaten and imprison dissenting voices, to strip away our rights, to demolish our democratic institutions. They want to bring us backwards to a time when a king ruled these lands. And we must say to them with every fiber of our being, America has no kings. To fight back against this fascist authoritarianism, we must be willing to put our bodies on the line in nonviolent resistance. We must be willing to engage not solely in rallies and marches, but to engage in nonviolent direct action. We must be willing to be met with violence by those who want to oppress us, to take their violence and not only not strike back, but to not relent in our prophetic witness for truth and justice. We must be willing to be imprisoned for standing up and speaking out. We must be willing to risk our very lives in the same way that every person who put their signature on the Declaration of Independence was willing to do. Why? Because America has no kings. And this is why, in the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. The Trump fascist regime must go. And this is why, in the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. The Trump. Thank you very much.
And we're not going to let anybody deter us from this mission. There might be people who come to disrupt us, try to get us riled up, but we're going to stay on message. We're not going to get riled up by anybody, right? Unless it's to say Trump must go now. We have something very important we're doing today, which is to rally the millions. We're out here to say no, but we're also out here to let people know that there is a movement to get with and a strategy to win, to actually get the Trump regime out of power. And that's what you're part of doing today. Now's the time to take a stand. If you're walking by, that's what we want to do. We want to call on everybody who hates this to take action with us today, to join the protest, to become part of this force.